Hi there. This video is going to show how to create PPM's 360-degree virtual tour using Pano2VR software. The Pano2VR software will create a panoramic image in which the user can have a 360-degree view of the site that PPM has measured. It will include all photos in the photo set that the surveyor has provided to PPM. And the user will have access to these photos by the next and previous buttons, or by using the drop-down menu they can jump to any photo in the photo set. Lastly, there's a photo key plan embedded in the virtual tour, in which the user can see the location of the photo was taken in relation to the plan that PPM has drawn. The photo key plan also includes radar around the selected photo bubble that shows the user which direction they're looking at in relation to the plan. The user can click on any of these bubbles and it will take them to the corresponding image. Lastly, in the instance where there is more than one plan that needs to be keyed, there is a drop-down menu that allows the user to access that photo key plan. So in this instance, there is a floor, site, and roof photo key plan. Lastly, the user can scale down the photo key plan so that they can view the panoramic image and the photo key plan at the same time, or they can highlight the plan in order to see more detail, or they can turn the plan off to just see the image. So the first thing we need in order to start this is the actual photos from the surveyor. So here I have a project file where the surveyor sent us their DWG and their JPEGs, and we've organized, this is the first thing to do, is to organize the photos that come from the surveyor into the plans that they go into. And these names are important because these names will be used automatically when you import this into the Pano2VR output file. It'll apply a tag based on what the folder is named. So here you can see that we've named the folders according to their actual plans. And if I bring up the plan again, or the Pano again, you can see that we have those same folder names, site, floor, roof, in the drop-down menu. So you want to make sure that whatever you want in this drop-down menu is what you name your folders for, organizational, for the sake of organization and to make things easier. So I'll go into one of these and I'll show you what the original photo looks like. So this is the original photo that comes from the surveyor Pano camera. So you can see it's just a flattened image, and that's what the Pano2VR software does, is once you put this into the software, it makes that 360 photo where you can pan around and basically stitches this together. So now that we have our photos organized, I'll show you the rest of how this works. So now we're going to create the plan images that go into the 360 virtual tour. And these are the drawings that are used for the photo key plan that you see here. The way that they're created is the line work from our original drawing is taken and converted into an SVG file, and we found that the SVG file is the smallest or works the best in order to transition from plan to plan. So you can see that when I click on another plan, it transitions quickly between the two. So I'll show you how to convert our original drawing into the SVG image that we're going to use. So I've got my drawing here, and I'll open it up. And you can see that it has all the line work for the entire sheet set. And I'm only concerned with the line work that's related to the roof plan drawing, since we're going to start by creating the SVG for the roof plan. So I'm going to want to isolate that line work and copy it into a new file, and then convert that file to an SVG. The easiest way to do that is if the viewport overrides are already set up, I'll go over to my roof plan sheet, and this is the line work that I want. It's got everything that I need. So I'm going to create a new file. Then I'll go into the viewport, select the line work that I want, hit Control-Shift-C to copy from base point, select my base point, then go back to my drawing, my new drawing, paste it in, zoom to extents, and then I'll save this as in our project folder. So I'll create a new folder for SVG just to keep the folder clean, and I'll call this roof. We only want the line work for each drawing, so for each drawing you'll create a new DWG with that just as the line work for that drawing that you need for the photo key plan. Now when I convert to the SVG, the converter is only going to read the layers that are white, so I'm going to want to change all these layers to be white. So I'm going to open my layer manager up, select all layers, double click the color, select white, and now they're all white. Now if I wanted to, I could add any extra notes or enlarge the text so that it is easier to read in my final output, because you can see sometimes they're kind of small, so you can tailor this particular plan, since this is specific to this 360 virtual tour, to have any notes or any labels you want to delete or enlarge. This plan is purely representational and used for the 360 virtual tour, so it doesn't have to match the actual roof plan. So you can keep that in mind when creating these SVGs. So before I convert to SVG and save this DWG file, it's important to zoom to extents, because the zoom settings in the DWG are used as the bounding box of the SVG image. So if I'm zoomed way out, my SVG image is going to be very small. So it takes on the properties of the final zoom window. So just be sure to zoom to extents and then save your file, and then we'll convert it to SVG. So to do that, we're going to use cloudconvert.com. And I'm just going to take the file I just made, and I'm going to drag and drop the file into cloudconvert.com. It's going to ask me to select the format. I'm going to click Select Format, go to Image, and choose SVG. Then I'll hit the Start Conversion button. Once it's converted, I'll download it. Hit Download. Then I'll show it in the Finder and drag that file into my SVG folder for organization. Then when I open this up, you can see this is what's going to show up in our final output. So I'll do that for each of the plans that I need in my virtual tour. In the project folder, we'll create a folder called Pano. And in the Pano folder, it's just going to be empty, but you'll go to where the templates are, and there should be a link in the documentation that shows you exactly where these templates are. Since they might move for the sake of this video, we just have them in a regular folder for demonstration purposes. So the first thing I'll do is I'll take the Pano template, copy it over to our project file, and I'll rename this Pano template to, you can just use the job number. So I'll do 340331. Then I'll take, because you don't want to overwrite these templates because they'll be used for multiple projects. Then I'll take the skin I want. In this case, we're going to be creating the one that has 3 photo key plans. So I'll take the 3 plan skin and paste it in here and do the same thing. Rename it to 340331. The first step in adding these photos is taking the photos from the surveyor and dragging and dropping them into this our pano file. So I'll go to the JPEGs. I'll start with site since that's 001, and then I'll take all the photos and I'll drag them in to this Tor browser. Just drop them in, and you can see they just drop in right there. Now, depending on how, I'll delete these just to show you something that we don't want to do. Depending on which photo you click on, so say I click on photo 8 and I drag and drop, it'll put 8 as the first one and then put 1 at the end. So you want to be careful when dragging these in that they go in the order that you want them to. So I'll delete these again and show you the correct method. So then you see I'll select the first photo and drag and drop. Then I'll go to my floor, which is the next set of photos. And here I'll pan all the way over to the end. And if you do this, it makes it a little more easy to follow. So it's just in one line. So I'll take my floors. Oh no, roof is next. See, we ended at 42, so we want to get to 43. So roof is next. I'll take this and drop in there. Make sure they're in order. Go to the end. Grab floor and drop. The next step in this is to name these photos. So they have a file name, but in this final pano, these bubbles use the name that you give. Use the user data to take this to assign this number. So if this is blank, this title here in the user data title is blank, then the photo bubble will show up with nothing in it. And I'll show you an example of that when we actually place the bubbles. So that's the first thing to do, is to name each of these files, each of these with what you want the photo bubble to show. So it doesn't matter what the name of the file is, it matters what you assign the title. And currently we don't have a method to automatically do this, so unfortunately you have to do this manually. But there is a shortcut. If you hit Control bracket, right bracket, it goes to the next photo, and Control left bracket will go back. So basically you just go 01, enter, Control next, 02, enter, Control next, and so on and so forth until you get to the rest. So a little tedious, but it goes pretty quick once you get the hang of it. And you can see if you've actually done it. See, I might have forgot to press enter on this one because you can still see the file name here rather than the user data title. So these ones are 03, and that means this 03 will show up in your photo bubble. Or now you can see that I've named all these photos. So now you can see that the user data for each of these, the title is the photo number that I want to use in the bubble. So the next part of this is editing the skin and actually overlaying, the buttons that we want over this pano. So here is where the skin can be found. To load the correct one, you can see the template is still in here. So I want to click on this folder and then go to my project folder, the pano, and that skin file that I renamed is there, and I can use that to start with. So I'll open that, I loaded it, and then to actually get into the editor, it's this little cowhide. So I click the edit skin button, that brings up my skin editor, and the first thing, this is just, we've got a tree which are basically like layers, each of these elements, and then the properties of each of the elements over on the right. Well, basically the two things in the skin editor that we'll be dealing with. And here's where you can zoom. It's not that easy to move around, so this is the zoom, and then you can scroll left and right. There's no like pan feature. So the first thing you can notice is that this is not the McDonald's that we were looking at in the actual file. It's some other plan that's set up in the template. So we're going to have to somehow bring in the actual drawings that we made for this project. So that's the first step I'll show you how to do. So I've gone ahead and I've made SVGs for the remainder of the plans that we're going to be putting in there. So I'll go back into my Pano file, open up the skin like we did before, and you can see that when I zoom out I can only see the site plan on this. So the way this works is that there's other plans. The other 3 plans are off the skin canvas. So this is the canvas that's showing right now. So they're off the canvas, and then when you click a button or you go to a particular photo, the plan that's off the canvas, it tells it to move to the position where it is on the canvas. So to view the plans that are off canvas, you'll go to View and then click the button Show Off Canvas Elements, or hit Control-Shift-O. And you can see here are other plans that are in the template. Now to change these, it's pretty simple. We'll just go over to Site Plan. Here in our tree, this should already be shown up, or you can open up the Rectangle 2 and then Mask Floor Plans, and then there's the Site Plan, and then here's the floor plan, and you can see the red selection box goes around it. These are just white backgrounds so you can actually see what you're working on. So you don't want to change the background files. It'll just be named the actual plan name. So I'll click on Site Plan and do that one first. And then over in Properties, the Properties shows the properties of whatever element I have selected. So I'll click SVG Image, and then here in Normal I'll hit Change, and it will bring up a dialog box. I'll go to my SVGs that I made. I'll click the site and hit Open. And then you can see the site plan SVG has been added there. Now, if I want, I can take this and scale this image to be a bit bigger so it fits better in the box. Depending on the size of the plan, or it depends on what the actual plan size will be. I know that's a little confusing, but if I do the floor, I'll show you what that means. So I'll change, go to floor, open. So you can see that filled out more of the box just because of the shape of the plan. We don't have software right now that edits the actual bounding box of the SVGs, so that we're kind of on our own for that. So the way you can do that is in this Pano file. You can take this red box and scale it, but you kind of have to be careful because you could accidentally scale other objects as well, and you want to be sure just to scale the SVG image. If you want to turn off this next button is just showing here. So this, if you hit the eye, it'll turn that on and off. So that way you can see what your canvas a little bit better. So I'll just scale this and get it right to where I want it. So that looks pretty good. So then I'll just add the SVGs for the rest of them. So now that I have all my plans in my skin, the next thing, I'm going to jump a little bit ahead of the OM, and the next thing I'm going to show you is how to set the radar, the north arrow, the radar, which is that element, if you remember from our Pano, that shows you which direction you're looking at in the plan. So the way that works is each of these photos has a north associated with it. If I go to one of the photos, you can see here north, it has north associated with it in the data of the photo when the surveyor took it. So then there's a feature in here where basically this dot up here in the template, and I'll zoom in to show you, is set to show whichever way north is pointing, whichever way north is in the photo. Sorry. You can see it's a little tricky to move around. So this is called the radar dot, and it's just in MH radar. And there's a feature in here that's a setting in here that's telling this to look north whenever you're looking north. So basically, you want to find which way north is on your plan in order for it to show the right direction. So in this case, the best way to do that is just either look on Google Earth, or if it's already in the plan, we know for this instance north is going this way. So I'm going to change my radar dot. So before it was up here and north was pointing up, we're going to move the radar dot to the direction that north is pointing in this arrow. So the easiest way to do that is zoom in as much as possible. And this can be a little tricky, but it doesn't have to be exact. And then I'll just move it to about the 180 mark, and click off it and see where it landed. And you can adjust a little bit. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. So let's just say it's there. So now I'm going to switch over to dual screen mode, because that's the best way to show you how to place the actual photo bubbles, because that's the next step where we're going to get to. So the next step in the process is to actually place the photo bubbles. So what I'll be showing how to do next is to just add these actual bubbles on here. So how that's done is you take the photo from the tour browser and just drag and drop them onto the skin into the correct location on the plan. So you want to make sure that nothing is selected on the tree. I take my first bubble, orient myself in the plan. Usually these place markers aren't there, so you can use this viewer to find out where you are in the plan. I just have them there for demonstration purposes. Oops. So I'll take that and I'll drag it and drop it onto the skin, and then move it to the appropriate location. And then I want to select. So when you place the photo, the node marker, which is what the photo bubbles are called in the Pano2 VR software, is automatically selected. So I want to deselect it by clicking outside the tree, and then grab my. Sorry, I'm going to just move this back to its appropriate place. I'm going to select my next pano, find out where I am, and then drag and drop it onto the skin. And you'll see that there was now these are just distinct elements separate from one another. But if I leave this selected, because remember last time we deselected it, so if I leave this selected and I accidentally go to the next one without unselecting it, and I place that in its location, you'll see that it becomes a part of that last element, the last node. So then these bubbles are connected, which is something we don't want. So to avoid that, that's why we have to click outside. So there's a little technique to doing that. But if you do that, you can just select it. You can select the marker node 3 and delete it, or hit Control Z and redo it. Now, once you say you did all the photo bubbles of the site plan, you would just simply continue on to the floor plan. There's no real separation between the node markers, as long as you had your show off canvas elements to be able to view that plan selected. So this is the most tedious part, probably the most lengthy part of this process, is just dragging all of these photo bubbles onto the correct location in the site plan, or on your plan. So then once all of the node markers are in there, you're going to want to make a habit of, every 10 or so nodes, taking these nodes and dragging them into the floor plans folder, because if they're left up outside of the floor plans folder, they won't show up when you do your final output. So the final output, it would look like just a blank plan with no bubbles on it, because it's not a part of that actual element that's being shown. So then we want to take the nodes and every so often just to clean your file up and place them in the floor plans, and then continue on in the order placing the bubbles. So one other thing I wanted to show is, notice how when we placed it, the 01 and 02 that we had entered into the user data title earlier is showing up here. So let's say, for demonstration purposes, I forgot that title, I forgot to do that part, and I go over here and I drag and drop, and you see there the bubble, there's no number that's showing up. So that's an example of how that user data is working. Anyway, that's how the bubbles are placed. Okay, so I've gone ahead and added all my bubbles. So now site, floor, and roof all have the necessary bubbles needed, so all photos have been keyed. So the next step in this is the plan drop-down menu. So the plan drop-down menu works by, when you select the floor plan, it should not only go to the floor plan photo key plan, but also jump to the first photo in that photo key plan. So the way that is set up is there's a plan drop-down menu folder, and the titles of that show up in the drop-down menu are under the plan drop-down menu background. So we've got roof, floor, and site. So the text is here. That can be changed, but that's not a part of this video. And then this is where it knows which photo to jump to when you select that particular plan. So if you remember, when we separated out our photos, we have them separated out. So you can see that the floor starts with 51. So we're going to just find the first photo of that plan. So in the case of the floor plan, it's 51. And we'll select the floor plan title, and then go over to the parameters in actions, double click it, and here you'll be able to change and choose which photo you want it to activate. So we're going to choose 51, then hit OK. And we'll do the same thing for the roof plan. That starts with 43. So we'll go over to the roof title, do the same thing, double click, and select 43. And the site should be 01, which it is in the template. So if you remember also, we had, remember how I had mentioned that when we make these folders and drop them into the Pano file, that it automatically tags them. So that's another way that this activation works. So let me minimize the skin, or close it in this case, and I'll save it. So you can see the tags right here. So that's a way that you can double check that the tags have been applied. So if I go over to 51, it says floor. So that's how when we go over to this template, when we select photo 51, it will change to the floor plan. So that's how it knows to change to the floor plan, is because that was tagged with floor. So that's why those are important, just to reiterate that again. So that was the last step in creating the skin, is to just set the parameters of the drop-down menu. So we've done that. The skin is ready to go. So like we did before, we just close and save it, and next we'll generate the output. So to generate the output, all I have to do is click this gear button. The PPM Pano template that we opened in the beginning of the video already has all of the output settings preloaded. So you don't have to mess with any of that stuff. All you have to do is press the gear button. So I'm going to go back to my project file for a moment just to show you that in this panel folder, when I hit the generate output button, it's going to create an output folder, and where it's going to stash all these files that it needs to basically run that final output that we need. So I'll click generate output, and it's starting, and then I'll show you this folder again, and see right away it just created this output folder. So this takes a little bit of time, so we'll just let it sit and then come back and see what happened. We're done now generating the output. It's all finished, and it should automatically pop up the output. It's just a preview of the output. You can see here that's not an actual URL. So if that doesn't pop up, you can always click this play button, and that will load the pano. So the first thing, once you previewing it is important just to make sure that everything worked. So you want to click on a few bubbles just to see that it goes to the right photo. Everything, it's on 25. It's looking in the right direction, and so that we've set the north arrow somewhat correctly. So it looks like in these cases it is. You can see that some of these are tilted a little bit, which I can show how to fix in a different video. And then also we want to see that the floor plans change correctly. So, and then it goes to the first one, and it's the right photo, floor, roof. So everything's looking good so far. And another way to test this is to just go to 42 and then click next and see if that works as well. And then go to, let's say, 50 and then next, and it goes to the floor plan. So everything's looking good so far. So this looks like it's a good output. So next, after generating the output, I'm gonna get into what we do from there, which is uploading to Amazon AWS.